Hey guys, Tyler here. So this is us ranking our top 25 games of the last generation. If you guys missed the previous episodes, go back and check them out. If not, hope you guys enjoy this next part. Love you guys. See you later. Well, moving on to my number 5 here. It was my 2015 game of the year, Metal Gear Solid 5. And I was kind of over the map with this one where it's like, it's still one of my favorite games of all time. But it's just like it's still a phenomenal game. Like even if it was just called Fan of Pain, I think it'd be a phenomenal game. But it's like it almost kind of hurts being Metal Gear Solid 5 more than it helps. I think where it's like it's Hideo Kojima's masterpiece to me. Like this was what Metal Gear was like supposed to be. And it's just like it's such a shame where it's like my favorite franchise of all time was like this is the end of it. This is filling in the gap, the last gap we have between 3 and Metal Gear on NES, and Metal Gear Solid 3 on PS2 and Xbox, where it's like we're filling in that gap there. What happened with Naked Snake, Venom Snake, Phantom Snake, Big Boss, whatever you want to call him. It's just like it's such a shame that like Chapter 2 was just like mostly like the same missions from Chapter 1, but like hard version. And then Chapter 3 had to get cut to put the game out. And like they got what's his name to be the voice actor, but it sounded like they had him for an hour and one take to get everything done. It's like I still, but it's like all that said, I still love this game, and definitely a good chunk of it is the fanboy in me, where it's like Metal Gear is my favorite franchise of all time. It's like it always will be. Hideo Kojima is a favorite game creator of all time, as much as I dislike Death Stranding. But yeah, it's just like I love it's all the shit I love about Hideo Kojima, where it's like his name is in everything, written by, produced by, directed by. Every time you start a mission up, it's like Hideo Kojima's name's everywhere. And then just the outlandishness, like you have D-Dog who has an eye patch for no like what? Well, okay. You got God, you got the girl that like she breathes through her skin, even though it's like creepy and uncomfortable. But it's just like she breathes through her skin. That's why she wears a bikini.
Quiet.
Yeah, quiet. Thank you. But it's just like it was knocking out an enemy or shooting with a tranquilizer, and then fucking having him like ballooning him off the fucking mother base is never gets old. Him screaming or like doing the same thing to an animal or a fucking a car or a tank. It's just like it's never got old. It's just like a meh, and like a fucking goat fucking going up in the fucking sky. It just never got old. And it's like, and you're scoping out. It's like, that guy's got an S rank as a fucking mechanic. Okay, that bitch is mine. It's like I'm gonna play in the next hour how I'm gonna get this fucker. But it's just, it's, and like the boss is really cool and really well done. I think the final fight at the end of Chapter 1 is really like the peak of that game to me. But it's just like even like the dumb shit. It was like the disease going around spreading and trying to figure out what's causing this disease to spread and everything. It's like it's got all the things you want in a Hideo Kojima game. It just doesn't have that satisfying ending that we wanted in the Metal Gear Solid franchise, in the Metal Gear franchise. And it's like I still hold out hope to this day that we'll get that, but it's a very slim hope. It gets a little lesser every day. But my number 5 is Metal Gear Solid 5. Gables, what's your number 5?
Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Wow. Okay.
Let me tell you something, man. It's like when it comes to fighting games, I love me a good fighting game, and we had a lot of fantastic ones this past generation. Street Fighter V, even though it started off terrible in terms of its launch and stuff, reorganized itself through Capcom's trial and errors and stuff with subsequent like expansion sort of things to get actual arcade mode stuff going through, lots of different characters and stuff to where it was comparable. Then you have Tekken 7, that's a fantastic game experience, a lot of good characters, a lot of good like things. Even like Soul Calibur 6, that was fantastic in my honest opinion. The single player thing kind of lacked at some retrospects and stuff, but yeah, there was still a lot of great characters you could play and experiment for. But I feel that Dragon Ball FighterZ outdoes all of them. And that's because there are two elements that I like. Obviously the Dragon Ball franchise, but another it's takes a Arc System Works borrowed a mechanic, like borrowed a system quintessentially that was more reminiscent of a classic game that I loved playing to death back in the day, and that was Marvel vs. Capcom 2. The 3v3 fighter, doing all these random combos, doing all these crazy ass like character combinations, stuff like that to make your team like quintessentially what you wanted to make. And that is quintessentially Dragon Ball FighterZ. You use a lot of the different characters from the Dragon Ball franchise. You have Goku, you have Vegeta, Piccolo, whoever you want to use. Even if you want to do something obscure, like, say, Super Baby 2, which that was one of the newer characters that released this past, on the season pass shit and stuff. But you can have all these different characters, do all these different combinations. Honestly, the online is super competitive. People are really good in regards to combining what different characters do, what combos and stuff. It's a lot more competitive on the PC scene now because of how much the connectivity in the Jeep, like, and all this other like stuff is fine-tuned in that regards compared to the PS4 version. But at the same time, it's like the online's comparable, really decent in my honest opinion. But the single player is fine. I liked playing through that initial single player. Part of the reason why I feel like it's one of the best Dragon Ball games is because it goes in depth, like certain situations and stuff that you wouldn't see, like really inside of like mainline things in the show, but more or less like some like a what if sort of scenario and this and that. But I like the new characters, like Android 21. Like her, she's a fun character. She's also a great fighter to play as and stuff because she does all these combinations. She turns her opponents into candy or like the cookies or those and just eats them and stuff like that. That's always so fun. It's like crazy, bizarre sort of shit. But you have all these like outlandish characters that you can play as and stuff and team up, and they do all these random like crazy ass attacks. Let's say like with Piccolo, when it's like a super beam, like a special beam cannon and stuff like that, you can combo it into like some sort of like air assault things or whatever the hell. It's just the amount of options that I had at my disposal on top of me wanting to get better at the game, streaming myself playing this game for like at least the past couple of years and stuff on and off, and then facing off against these people online that's like crazy good. But I obviously am a glutton for punishment. I go through it anyway because I wanted to try to go through and get like at least some bit of enjoyment out of the online stuff. But yeah, Dragon Ball FighterZ I feel like is the best fighting game over this past generation, and so that's why it's at number 5.
Nice, very cool, Gables. Well, we are getting to the we see the light now on this. We are now into the final 4. Moving on to my number 4 here, Horizon Zero Dawn, my game of the year for 2016, or 2017 rather. I'm sorry. This game that like coming out, like I remember it came out the same week as Breath of the Wild and the Switch launch, just like actually like 3 or 4 days before that, and I remember just going in like not really, I didn't really know what to expect out of this one. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna check this out because it looks, or like checking out like I was intrigued by like the idea of like we've seen all these games that like go like futuristic flying cars, or we see like games that take place, you know, in the olden days with like witches and, you know, like Witcher style games or like Dragon Age style games. It's like, but I never see like this one where like all right, we're way in the future, we're 1,000 years in the future. Something happened, we don't know what it is, but it's not just like, oh, it's super futuristic. It's like, no, everything just went to shit, and it's like the nature's taken over again. But there's also like these dinosaur robots that are like roaming the earth, and it's just like, you know, they've got these different you know, villages and stuff like that. And it's like you know, yeah, I really enjoy the gameplay, and it's just like every fight, like you seem like, not every fight, but like, you know, when you fight some of these, like you'll see these enemies like there's like I think one's called like the lockjaw or something like that, and it's you see these are these like the ones that fly, and it's just like you get to these like fights and you find some of these robots, and it's like you've killed them 20 times, but like every single fight feels like a big fight situation where it's like you gotta be smart, you gotta dodge, you gotta dash, you gotta dive, you gotta fucking, it's like the 5 Ds of dodgeball: dodge, dip, duck, dive, and dodge, to get the fuck out of the way of some of these attacks and not get killed. And it really, it's just that, and it's just like, you got a bow and you got a fucking spear, and good luck. But it's so well made. The combat's so well made. It's not, once again, an open world game that, like, it's funny because, like, open world games for the most part don't click with me, but there's a few on my list here that I've talked about, and it's just like, this is one of them where it's like, I was so intrigued by, like, the backstory. It's another thing where, like, the backstory intrigued me so much, where I was reading everything I could find about what happened long ago, or what's going on currently, or like what's so important about Aloy and the situation. And yeah, it's just loved the whole moment, loved the world, and like, you're going through a city that's been like, the trees have taken over, grass has taken over, nature's taken over. It's just like, you're wandering through these environments, but it's like, it's so well made. The story isn't, it's not top notch, but I think at the very least the main characters of this game are interesting, and they set it up so well for a sequel. And it's like the story I thought the reasoning I thought they would give for why things went to shit was the reason why in the end. But I'm so happy they didn't, like, swerve us just for the sake of, like, a swerve, where it's like, all right, well, you guys think this is gonna happen, so we're gonna do this because you guys think the logical decision, it's too logical. We gotta zag for no reason. It's like, they didn't do that. And you see so many times in, like, movies or TV shows or video games or whatever, like any sort of media, where, like, we're just gonna do a twist for the sake of a twist, and it makes no sense when you think about it. And it's like, they stuck to it, and it still was impactful and still well done. Like, when you get to that moment, it's like, oh wow, okay. It's like, I knew it was coming, but I'm still stunned by this moment. But my number 4, Gables, is Horizon Zero Dawn. What's your number 4, Gables?
My number 4 is Uncharted 4: A Thief's End.
Oh, look at that. I think we're at 7 now. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's 7. But yeah, this is definitely my game of the year from
2016.
What was it, 2016? Yep. Yes, and that's for good reason too, because this is a fantastic ending to a series that, honestly, in my honest opinion, should not be touched upon any further, because of how well it set itself up to not only tie up a lot of the loose ends in regards to the trilogy of the Uncharted games, but honestly, it gives good closure to, like, Nathan Drake and, like, Elena and stuff, and also their child as well. But a lot of the fun elements, a lot of the struggles with Nathan Drake in regards to whether or not he should keep on continuing on, or actually go through and, like, maybe he should just go ahead and hang up, like, a lot of what his adventuring and stuff in order to settle, like, this family and this and that, and then he wants to satisfy this last thing with one of his ancestors in regards to, like, another member of the Drake family from, like, long ago and stuff, and try to get that old stuff tied up. But on top of that, he's got to face, like, one of his former friends and stuff like that as his rival, and you're basically in a battle between, like, trying to find this treasure and against, like, your former friend and stuff, and, like, all that leading up to all these cinematic moments, like on a boat, through a mansion where you have to infiltrate shit, and then all of a sudden that final initial battle between you and your former friend with just fisticuffs, all this fire going around, you have to try to counter all this shit and stuff. It was a fantastic adventure from beginning to end. It definitely had a lot of fun times that there was a lot of beautiful moments. Obviously, Naughty Dog spared no expense to make sure this game looked like a quality game, but also, like, all this, like, subsidiary things you could do, like, off the beaten path. That was great. But it also had a story that honestly made sense to me, and it was a lot more cohesive in terms of what the motivation was, what exactly, like, you could do in regards as Nathan Drake in order to get to the next plausible solution and stuff. There wasn't any added fluff. There really wasn't any type of, like added crap or something that really deterred the overall quality of the story experience. But story, gameplay, definitely was fantastic in my honest opinion, and that was part of the reason why it was my number 1 game from back then, and why it's number 4 now in the games of, like, the generation.
Oh, very cool, Gables. So your number 1 game from 2016 was your number 4. My number 1 game for 2016 is my number 3. It's a game called Last Guardian. Nice. It's a game, I mean, a big part of the reason why it's on my list is, like, not only was it to me a fantastic game, I'm a sucker for a dog. and also a dog that can fly apparently in Trico. If you're watching this, I guess it's cut off, but I have like a Trico statue. I bought the collector edition for that. I spent the like $150 for it. I have the book up there, the art book up there. It's like that's my next tattoo eventually is get a Trico tattoo. Like I am so fucking obsessed with this goddamn bird dog thing, and I just it's 9 years of waiting for this game from the first time we saw it, and just like being this was like it was announced in 2007, and it's like okay, this game looks really really good. And I'm like I can't wait. Never playing Shadow of the Colossus, never playing Ico, or Eco, and just like I totally want to play this game. Can't wait to play this game, and then like years go by of nothing, and then just like I remember when they brought it back in like 2014, they brought it in the E3, and I was just like tears. I'm just like I can't believe I just thought it was dead, and to bring it back, got delayed like twice in that last year, and to come out and it's just like not only be like good but really really good. I thought like in just like a story that's really really well told, and it's like it's not like an in your face story. It's just like understanding like they tell you some stuff like they don't like they don't talk, but they show you, but like there's so much stuff in that game where it's like a show don't tell type of thing, and just the adventure of the boy and Trico, and just like him like not listening to you very well. It's very frustrating as a gamer, where it's like he's not listening to you, but it's also like part of the game design, but it's still frustrating. But as the game progresses, like you guys work together more and more, and you feel that bond, you grow that bond, where it's like he's listening to you, he still does things you want to do. And it's like there's definitely times where it's like that's a game issue, where it's like it's the game not working. It's not the game like oh, you guys haven't bonded enough. No, it's like the game doesn't work as well. But it's like it's still just like it's definitely that like I admit that I overlook a lot of its faults, but still end up loving this game. And like I said, I'm a sucker for a goddamn dog with wings. And every time something was bad was happening, that fucking beautiful bird dog, like he was yiping. I'm like I was in panic where I gotta go help him. I'm like fuck, he's getting hurt or he's in danger. I gotta go save him. Like I would like as if like Louis himself, my dog, was like in danger. I'm like fuck, like I would just like lose my shit. I'm like I can't function anymore correctly. I would be terrible in a crisis, Gables. That's what I'm saying, and this game proves it, especially when it comes to a dog. But my number 3 is Last Guardian. Gables, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Persona 4
Oh,
Golden.
okay. That's a Vita game, correct? Or was that PS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, actually. That one is, in my honest opinion, the best game to play on the PlayStation Vita. And part of the reason for that is because of how well constructed the story alongside of the addicting gameplay is meshed together so well. What starts off as like a crazy mysterious murder ends up evolving into you diving into a TV set which takes you to the Midnight Channel, a spiritual realm more or less with all these shadows and potential demons or something like that you can defeat, or you can convince them to join your side in order to try to unravel why these events are occurring in the first place. But along the way, along this long slow burn of a game, you'll eventually come across a lot of these different characters that you'll either love a lot of like their traits, a lot of their different things, and a lot of their different like quirks, or you will come to maybe not like certain aspects of some other characters and stuff. But keeping in mind is all of these personality traits and a lot of their arcanas will affect what you'll do in regards of the main game, because in order to advance further in certain dungeons and in certain like other types of like situations, you have to have high link levels in order to not only create stronger monsters through fusing, but you can also unlock certain specific traits in regards to like social standings, in regards to like saying having a max say in like proficiency, or a max in like strength or guts or whatever the hell, and that will contribute onwards to creating like an easier experience for you to go through and enjoy for the rest of the game. So where Persona 4 Golden comes in, it's a quintessentially the greatest hits version of the original game, which came out in 2008 on the PS2, but was subsequently not only upgraded but also added more content that the original game didn't have on the PlayStation Vita. And quite honestly, the reason why it's so high is because there are very few games that you can play where if you spend that much time and you're engrossed in the story and the characters and the elements of the characters that where you care about what happens, what they're gonna do next, that is a sign of great, not only game design, but it's also a trait of great storytelling. So in that regards, it was one of the few games where I didn't want to put it down, and I was completely sad when the damn thing ended because I wanted to play more inside of this in this story to obviously be still with these characters in that regards. And so with all of that stuff, that's why it's number 3 on my list.
Very cool. Very cool. Moving on here to my number 2, Gables, is my 2020 game of the year. Yep. Last of Us Part 2. I spent a whole 20 plus minutes just a few months ago going on about why it's my favorite game of 2020. And I'm not going to do it again. It's 2:30 in the morning. We're 3 hours into this podcast session. Just this one podcast is not including the one we did before this. And but it's the greatest story, I think, told in a game ever. With Ellie, my emotions in this game have never been so heightened by a game before, where it's the rage Ellie felt is the rage I felt, and just the way they play with your emotions in this game, where the whole second half of that game, and replaying the entire events again, and the ending, the last chunk of the game. Yeah, it's a great game to play. It's a fun. It's not. I shouldn't say fun game. The gameplay is really well made. It's torturous the entire time. It's just you go through these waves of enemies, and it's just you feel you are always on the cusp of running out. You feel it really does a great job of it's the best the game has done for me, in a survival game, where it's you feel you're always on, you'll get you'll be overloaded with ammo or weapons, and then you'll just all of a sudden you'll get into a couple firefights, and it's you are every shot matters, it's I don't want to compare it to this happened in real life kind of thing, but it's it really would be you're going in with I got, all right, what you got, all right, I got 8 fucking bullets in my pistol, I got 2 shots in my rifle, I got 3 fucking arrows, I got 1 goddamn fucking grenade, what's the Molotov cocktail. It's what you got going into it. It's all right, you got to plan this out smartly. And I'm going to this, I'm sneaking, and I got to figure out how I can take this guy out. I can take it's just it's so well done in that sense. And it's I think it's the greatest combination of characters ever put into a game before. I think it's the greatest story ever put into a game before ever. And I don't know how Naughty Dog or anybody will ever be able to top this game from a story-based game. Obviously, there's a game that topped it for me that I'll get to in a moment. But that's number 2, Gables. Last of Us Part 2. Gables, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Fire Emblem Awakening, which was my, I want to say, 2013 game of the year. Is that
3DS? Okay.
Yes, that's 3DS.
That was the third one, wasn't it? Because there was one, there was 2, and then there was a third one after that, or I'm thinking of the wrong one?
I think you're thinking of the wrong one. Because I know for a fact that was the first Fire Emblem game on the 3DS.
Okay.
And then the second one was Birthright, and then the third one, it was the one you were, I think it was because the second one, Birthright, was one of a trilogy, really. Because you have Conquest, and then you have something else. Wait, what?
Hello?
Did I freeze?
Oh, yep. Are you there? Okay, yeah. What was I thinking of?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm here.
Okay, you froze for 10 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, I think what you're referring to is for the third game in and of itself was the trilogy, essentially. So yeah, Birthright, Conquest, and like the third one in that regard.
Okay, that's what I was thinking
I've
of.
also
Then.
been thinking about, yeah.
Okay.
But Fire Emblem Awakening, the reasoning why it is so high on this list and why is it the number 2 is because of how fantastic not only the storytelling is, but how addictive the gameplay became. Especially with the huge cast of characters, which I was highly invested in, not only maxing out a lot of these characters, but also testing with the elements of like mixing certain like relationship stuff together to where when they do produce like children and stuff like that, like those different traits and those different things and like how they would perform in certain tasks and situations. I played through this game in its entirety like 2 different times, and I got at least, I want to say, over 70 to like 100 hours out of this damn game. It definitely has a lot of legs. It's definitely a fantastic experience. The quality of the story was there too. It actually had me at points to where it's like, okay, is the main protagonist, is he gonna make it out? Is he or her gonna make it out alive? You know, can this do this or do that? Because quintessentially, what I did is like I had I started off. I had a female character at first, and I did for the second playthrough I think a male character and stuff, and different perspectives and stuff, but it wasn't exactly bad at all. It was actually pretty damn good in regards to subsequential, like, not like alienating things if you chose a specific gender or whatever the hell, but it was definitely a great experience in terms of like learning how to team up with certain individuals and how their stats all rank up like with each other and provide better like teamwork and stuff, and the whole leveling up of like a grid to where these 2 units are now more friendly with each other. Now it's like a C rank or an A rank, or with certain characters, say like with the opposite gender, you could do like an S rank or something like that to have that relationship go to where it was. And man, just the amount of fun I had just during like just enjoying the story was more or less similar to what I did with 3 Houses. Only it's even more so with 3 Houses for Switch. So that's why it's at number 2.
Yeah, very nice. Very cool. Well, moving on to the grand finale. My number 1 Gables game of this last generation. It's, I mean, if you haven't figured it out by now, I don't know. I mean, you haven't been listening to this podcast very long. It's Fast Furious Crossroads. It's Fast and Furious.
God damn it, dude! Don't. It's almost like freaking 1.
It is 2:30 here, and we recorded for 5 hours.
Oh god!
Sorry,
dude.
I couldn't help myself. It is. I saw you drink it, and I had to go for it. Low hanging fruit. It is God of War 2018. And this, like I said, I made this list over a month ago. This isn't like a recency bias thing of like replaying God of War again. It's like I played Last of Us just last June. I'm playing this just in 2018. I'm playing again right now. But for me, it's like I talk about like Last of Us Part 2 was the greatest story ever told, the greatest combination of characters ever told. But it's like God of War is like made me deep dive into like, this is before I even started replaying it again. Like this is like end of last year where I was like, I started just like fucking watching like deep dive videos explaining the mythology of the world or backstories of the characters and like explaining like going crazy and like theories for like what God of War Ragnarok's gonna be and like but it's also just on top of that more it's like where it's like I think it's a really well told story. It's an amazing story, amazing world built. Game looks crazy. I love the world serpent. I love Mimir, like on your like you carry him around throughout the whole game, telling you backstories of like these characters and like these gods in this Norse mythology. But also like the gameplay it's so fucking fun. Like I feel like just a fucking badass. Like it's never getting old playing it through a second time, throwing the axe and retrieving it. Like the feeling I got the first time I threw it and retrieved it is the same feeling I have playing it just a few hours ago and retrieving it for the 10,000th fucking time. It's like that you just feel like a badass running through enemies. Like some of these boss fights I'm going through, and it's just like when you just do some crazy fucking shit or like things just line up great with combinations. It's just it's great. It's phenomenal. Like it is. To me, like I talked about this even when I did the Game of the Year thing, where it's like Last of Us Part 2 and God of War, that's a battle for me. Or like that's not just like Game of the Generation conversation. That's a greatest game of all time conversation. Like that to me, like I feel safe saying God of War is the greatest game of all time to me. It's the GOAT for me. And it's crazy because like I didn't give a fuck about God of War. Like I tried playing God of War on PS2 back in the day, and I didn't click for me. I tried replaying it again on PS3, and I got like 3/4 of the way through it, and I was like, I'm not even enjoying this game at all. I don't like this game, and like going in like not caring at all, and like to go into God of War, and it's like it's essentially God of War 4 at this point. There's some backlog, even though they don't really touch upon too much, but like they acknowledge it's there, and there's some stuff that like he has to deal with from that original trilogy of like him going through and like dealing with the issue of being a father, being like getting close to his son, the death of his wife, and everything. It's just like it's in the end, it's a story about a father and a son on a journey together to do something important of like spreading his mother's ashes on the tallest peak of the tallest on the tallest peak on the tallest mountain in all of the land, and going on this, but it's like it turns into so much more of like him, like bonding with the son, trying to like forgive himself of his sins of his past and all that. It's just phenomenal story, but it's just like I think what puts it over the top. Like it's not. I don't think it's the story. Is Last Part 2 story better to me? Yes, but but what makes the difference is like the moment to moment of this game where like the gameplay is top notch, is phenomenal. Like I said, like the biggest thing to me in the end, the tiebreaker for me on this is the Leviathan axe, where like I said, doesn't matter how many times I fucking chuck that thing and I hit an enemy and I call it back, it feels great every single time, and that's why it's my number one game of the generation and game of all time. God of War 2018. Gables, why is Pitter Pot your number one? We'll do a top 25 worst games of the generation, and Pitter Pot will be all 25 for you.
Oh my god.
We'll make a top 20. It'll just end up being the 25 reasons why you hate Pitter Pot.
All right. So the number one game for me for last generation is Persona 5 Royal. Absolutely, 100%, without a doubt, in my opinion. Persona 5 Royal is the top RPG from the past generation. It's definitely one of my favorite games of the generation, and quite honestly, it's one of the best games I have played on the PS4. It has everything that the previous entry had in regards to the addictive gameplay, in terms of the narrative, in terms of like the customization stuff, but it's all picked up a notch in that regards. And quite honestly, it holds everything that I do love about playing RPGs. Fun, addictive gameplay that can be pretty fast, and you can just either spend a couple hours playing, or you can actually go through and spend like maybe a couple of minutes here and there. It has great characters, and definitely the ideas like going through a lot of these characters and learning like who these individual characters are, great character buildings, like building and stuff to like better like emphasis of like creating better monsters and stuff. I thought the supporting cast around Joker in Persona 5 Royal was really great in comparison to say Persona 4 Golden, which did have some interesting characters in that regards, but I wasn't really compelled to go back and actually learn more about them. But with Persona 5 Royal, it's like I'm still like in a second playthrough. It definitely prompted me to want to do a second playthrough almost soon after I finished the main game originally, because I wanted to not only enjoy that world much more in regards to learning more about specific characters and stuff, but I wanted to go through with like a fresh set of eyes of what I could have noticed in terms of the narrative stuff as far back, like as far back as say like the second main dungeon and stuff like that, because the game meticulously sets up like the whole theme of like redemption and the whole theme of like breaking your chains and rebel against your destiny in regards to going forth your own way and keep moving forward no matter what holds you down, and pretty much no matter what ends up happening and stuff, you got to go through, move forward, be true to yourself, and maintain like a sense of like stability in terms of your convictions and morals in regards to get what you want. That is the main lesson that this game potentially, not just potentially, but that does teach you in terms of like its storytelling in that regards. I felt like while playing as Joker, yeah, there were a lot of times where you kind of feel like a lot of the world isn't going against you and stuff because you were pretty much kicked out of your school and stuff like that because you were at the wrong place at the wrong time because this one politician or something was like drunk and was like trying to like hit on this one woman or something like that. You called him out on it, and all of a sudden like you end up like punching him or something like that. He ends up bleeding, but he ends up like having you arrested, and you have to transfer to this other you have to transfer to like your hometown, so like the city in that regards, and then all of a sudden from there, it's all like a quintessentially like a slow, methodical build and storytelling and gameplay. You meet the different cast of characters progressively. It felt like such an organic experience in regards to how things were conveyed and how things that were like set up to where it rivals some of the best movies and some of the best TV shows that I've watched personally. Because a lot of the elements of the great story of like a lot of the elements of a great story in general is how much engagement you get out of seeing the story evolve through how these characters interact with one another and basically how they go through and figure out certain situations and stuff. Now, granted, there were some little bit of like caveats here and there and stuff that I may not have enjoyed as much, but what I will say is I really did enjoy seeing how these characters progress the story with the Phantom Thieves and how everything else seems to go through and challenge what they want to go through and do. And even at their lowest point, they end up finding a way to try to progress forward and try to, like, not just try, but go through and establish what they want to set out in terms of their goals, which is changing people's hearts into being some of the best versions of themselves. So with that said and done, this game, Persona 5 Royal, is the best game of the last generation for me.
Nice. Very cool, Gables. Well, that is it. Over 3 hours in, we are finally done. I'm going to do a quick run through of all of our top 25, though, here. So, Gables here, top 25. 25, Outlast. 24, 29, Post Grader 1 and 2. 23, A Way Out. 22, Gravity Rush. 21, Final Fantasy Curtain Call. Number 20, Rocket League. 19, Hat in Time. 18, Super Mario 3D Land. 17, Persona 3 and 5, Dancing in Moonlight Starlight. Destiny 2 is 16. Number 15, Untitled Goose Game. Number 14, Danganronpa. Number 13, Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair. Number 12, Mario Kart 8. Number 11, Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Number 10, Celeste. Number 9, Persona 4, Dancing All Night. Number 8, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Number 7, Doom 2016. Number 6, Mario 3D Land. Number 5, Dragon Ball FighterZ. Number 4, Uncharted 4. Number 3, Persona 4 Golden. Number 2, Fire Emblem Awakening. Number 1, Persona 5 Royal. And mine top 25 is 25 Outlast, 24 Gears 4, 23 Evil Within 2, 22 Wolfenstein 2, 21 Until Dawn, 20 Gears 5, 19 Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duels, 18 Mario Kart 8, 17 Pokemon X, 16 Hellblade, 15 A Way Out, 14 Titanfall 2, 13 Rocket League, 12 Spider-Man, 11 is Mario 3D World, 10 is Doom 2016, 9 Celeste, 8 Hyper Light Drifter, 7 Final Fantasy 7 Remake, 6 Uncharted 4, 5 Metal Gear Solid 5, which is funny now I think about it because the Metal Gear Solid 4 was number 4 last generation, 4 Horizon Zero Dawn, 3 Last Guardian, and 2 is Last was Part 2, and number 1 Fast Furious Crossroads / God of War. I couldn't pick a tie. So yeah, that is our list. We both had 8 games in common in the very end. That will do it for us on this very long recording session for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed us all. It is almost 3 a.m. here. Love you guys. Gables, too sweet?
Too sweet, man.
Bye, guys.
See ya.